We recently learned in a Famitsu interview that Tears of the Kingdom is not set to receive any DLC content in the future, according to series producer Eiji Aonuma. The reason for such is allegedly tied to the fact that the team has done everything they can with the current Hyrule we know and love. And, to be fair, this iteration of Hyrule has been known to the public for exactly a decade as of next year.
While some people may be disappointed in the lack of post-launch content for Tears of the Kingdom, especially with unanswered questions like the odd disappearance of Cass and the mysterious vanishing of the Zonai tribe, we can rest assured that the Zelda team is at least getting a head start on developing the next Zelda experience, likely for the soon-to-be-revealed successor to the Nintendo Switch.
In today's video, we'll be going over a few topics in regards to the next Zelda game, such as how exactly the Zelda team might set out to create an entirely new world after the one we've been accustomed to for the last two games. With the lack of Tears of the Kingdom DLC, this does bring up the conversation of missed opportunities. Let's talk about Cass. If for some reason you don't know who he is, then allow us to give him a brief introduction. Cass the Bard made his debut in Breath of the Wild. His almost melancholic demeanor, yet positive attitude drove many players to adore him. Without Cass, the world feels empty, the common sentiment. So, this begs the burning question. So where the fuck is Cass in Tears of the Kingdom? As a fan of Cass myself, I've wondered this since launch, and scoured the land for clues that he might be lingering around somewhere. When we take a closer look at some of the dialogue provided by Pin, we learn that Cass is now considered a famous bard, and he no longer resides on his perch, nor in Rito Village. So in regards to his exact location, this is something we've yet to see, or even hear about. Or have we? Let us know where you think Cass might be. Aside from Cass, there are still many questions that linger in regards to the land of Hyrule and what might lurk outside of it. I'll let Andy expound on that.
A theory that had been brewing in the back of my mind was a possible expansion to Tears of the Kingdom taking place outside of Hyrule, or maybe even in the distant reaches of its surrounding ocean. In Tears of the Kingdom, the topic of lands outside of Hyrule is brought up more than a few times, and something that caught my eye immediately as I played the game was Yona's character bio. This piece of text directly describes her as a royal Zora from a different domain. We can assume that this either means a domain entirely outside of Hyrule, or one outside of the mainland of Hyrule that we just weren't able to visit in the base game. And while this one piece of evidence could be pushed aside as a simple answer to why we didn't see Yona in Breath of the Wild, there are other hints and oddities in Tears of the Kingdom that could have pointed to the DLC taking us outside of the bounds of Hyrule Kingdom.
To put this DLC chapter finally behind us, let's take one more look at the interview posted by Famitsu in their latest issue. There are no plans to release additional content this time, but that's because I feel like we've done everything we can to create fun in that world. In the first place, the reason I decided to make this a sequel to the previous work was because I thought there was value in experiencing a new game in that Hyrule place. What the f? Now this does make sense, considering Tears of the Kingdom tackled all the different layers of an overworld, including underground, the surface, and the skies above. Tears of the Kingdom also introduced the series to true crafting mechanics for the first time, and even gave us the ability to create our own contraptions. However, in a story context, this still doesn't tie up some of the loose ends left behind by the game, such as the aforementioned disappearance of the Zonai and Cass's mysterious departure. Looking back again at what Aonuma said, I feel like we've done everything we can to create fun in this world.
If we've explored all three tiers of the kingdom in these past two games, what in the world could be next for The Legend of Zelda? We do have a few ideas for where the Zelda team could take the series going forward. Our first thought is a pretty obvious one, a third title to create a trilogy. But if this iteration of Hyrule has been thoroughly explored twice over, where would we go? A simple answer would be a new continent or kingdom, or maybe even a return to Holodrum or Labrina. Tears of the Kingdom does allude to lands outside of Hyrule, and some of the unexplained loose ends found within the game seem to be setting us up for a future title to explore them, especially now that DLC is seemingly off the table. With the absence of Cass and the appearance of brand new characters from other lands, such as Yona, could it be possible that in this next title, we find ourselves in these new lands? If so, How do we get there, especially with the lack of Ultra Hand? Allow us to propose the idea that this next game could predominantly take place on the seas, searching for this land. With the lack of underwater or any underwater elements in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it does beg the question, did they neglect this on purpose, saving it for a future title? Using Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's engine, while giving us a massive overworld of scattered islands and ocean, would essentially be giving us one large playground for players not only to explore, but maybe even create new contraptions to sail the seas, not to mention the physics of water that could come into play as well. The theme of exploring a great sea again could also be a thematic match to the Wind Waker, similar to how Breath of the Wild in a sense was a spiritual successor to Zelda 1, and how Tears of the Kingdom borrowed many scenes and story elements from Ocarina of Time.
As cool as this would be, the most likely answer would be to just skip the search for this new land entirely and to just start us within its bounds already. And while some folks may want an entirely new game, a new cast of characters, as well as a new art style, keep in mind that as large as Tears of the Kingdom is, it still was slightly limited as a sequel due to the fact that it was set in the same Hyrule. Nintendo was naturally limited in altering the fundamental aspects of the open-air titles within the same world. However, we may see many changes and updates arrive to the open-air formula with an entirely new land to explore. Also, keep in mind, we've seen Zelda games have their own unique visual identities while still being sequels to each other. With that out of the way, isn't it odd that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are set so far ahead in the future that the games released prior no longer matter? I would like to propose another potential idea, that the next new Zelda experience is set far in the past, even before Skyward Sword. We already made a theory video talking about this months back, so if you'd like to find out more about how a game set in the far past could work, we'll leave a link in the description for you to go check it out. Although this brand new setting far in the past would still allow the Zelda team to explore whatever creative ideas they have, just like how they did with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. We even see the likes of technology and other historic footprints such as Lanayru Desert, tech bocos, and robots, showing that there is some sort of advanced lost history before Skyward Sword. Therefore, these hints of civilization prior to Skyward Sword do leave Nintendo an opening to make a truly unique title, both in setting and story.
With the combined information collected in this video, it would seem as though this may be their ultimate decision. This setting both fulfills the team's creative freedom, but also the ability to push the bounds of the open-air format, with an iteration of Hyrule that we know little to nothing about. How would you feel if Nintendo continues to take the series in this direction? Or would you like them to do something totally brand new? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's have a discussion.
As always, be sure to hit the like button if you liked the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and remember, keep it rated in.
Although I accepted life as the hero, I could not convey the lessons of that life to those who came after. At last, I have eased those regrets.